Hello and welcome to Amazing Mind, the HMI Web TV talk show that introduces you to all sorts of interesting people and topics related to subconscious behavior. My name is Lisa Machenberg, hypnotherapist, HMI instructor, and host. Today we have an amazing guest who's going to talk to us about happiness. Please help me welcome my guest, Dr. Andrea Polard. She is a clinical psychologist, author, the founder of the Los Angeles Center for Zen Psychology. Please help me welcome my guest, Dr. Polard. Now, Andrea, I'm so happy that you came to talk to us about your wonderful brand new book, certainly one of my favorites. It's called The Unified Theory of Happiness, an East-West meets approach to fully loving your life. Why did we need another book about happiness?
You know, when I went through the books on happiness, I was always left with a sense of dissatisfaction. Mm-hmm. They seemed to make one or two points, but then they never really responded to my life here in the West or to the whole of my life. So I felt I could do better.
I bet.
I could unite some of these aspects and present them in a way that doesn't overwhelm us.
Well, there's a lot of information out there,
yeah.
And there is a separation between, well, I think that the West says you want happiness, go, 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 and the East says you want happiness, stop, stop, stop.
That's right.
Can you tell us some of the theories from the West and the East?
Yeah. The major points that are being hit are in Tibetan Buddhism, they stress the point of compassion. And compassion is so important to our happiness. But to me, it wasn't at least not alone. And in Hinduism, we often stress the getting rid of our delusions of separateness from the whole.
Sure.
And that is important. And then in Buddhism, of course, awareness, so important.
Yes.
But I didn't feel that was it either.
So that's the East. What does the West tell us?
In the West, we stress the opposite, as you said. We want to be in control, so that is being emphasized, like take charge of your life. If you want to be happy, just be. Use positive thinking. Set your goals, strive, go get your happiness.
And also in the West, we rely a lot on the feedback loop. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we want others to give us our self-worth oftentimes. We look at the other and from the distance, and we are waiting somehow for them to fix us. And in some ways, that works. We are social beings, so we want something from the other. But in the East, one is supposed to connect with the whole of life, and that happens when you become still with yourself.
Of course, these things seem to butt heads.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to go back, and we were talking about a concept, but we never really defined it. What's happiness?
That's a big question, and I did not look at my personal experience only, because it's such a big and very new and modern question that we did not have just a while ago, because people were concerned foremost with their survival. So I looked at literally hundreds of explications of happiness in literature, in fiction, in nonfiction, and I looked at I had 100 people that I asked who had an expressed interest in happiness, what they thought happiness was.
So what were your favorite from both the research and from your interviews?
You know, the favorite is that they always seem to, even though they're so diverse, these explications, they seem to all point to one common thread. They all seem to point to the good and full life that everybody wants to feel fully engaged. You want to feel alive. You want to have a sharp sense of existence. And I call that everybody wants to, when they search for happiness, have a sense or an experience of participation in life.
Yes. And yet, when you talk to your clients, when I talk to my clients, one of the main things that people come in for is they are ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. That is in direct opposition to the unifying principle of happiness.
That's right, because happiness can only happen in the present moment, whether you come from the West or from the East. And by focusing your attention to the present moment, you become fully aware of life. And there are different ways of doing that. The Western approach is different from the Eastern approach, but that's what brings us into the present moment, focused attention.
And being immersed in the present is the one commonality in happiness.
Yes.
You know, you said that the study of happiness is a really new subject.
Yeah.
Well, we've been around for about 600,000 years. How new is it, first of all?
You know, only in this century, basically, that a lot of people want to, let's say the last century, it starts with the last century, because too many people were concerned with their survival and had to be. And very few, the few privileged, could ponder the question of happiness. Now we all say the word, it's in our mouths, right? But I really doubt that we really understand what it is. It is such a new subject, and this is the time right now.
Why now?
This is our time. You know, finally, thank God, in the Northern Hemisphere, we have our basic needs met. Most of us do. And we have the luxury, many more people have the luxury to not just be concerned with their survival, but with their happiness, with something more.
You talked about abundance and having enough, and certainly everybody in the studio audience and everybody watching this program has internet access. If you have enough for not only food, but if you have internet access, how come you're not happy?
Good question. You know, it seems to me that sometimes the richer we become, the more we have, the less we are happy.
Why?
That's because we are aiming at the wrong goals, right? We have an automatic program in our biological nature that steers us towards survival. We want our genes to survive at all costs. We do that by either being the best or by trying to prevent somebody else from being better.
So we want to make sure that we have enough so our genes move forward, or make sure that our neighbor doesn't. And that
right.
ups our opportunity to get our genes to go forward.
And that is what we have a program for. But for happiness, we don't have much of a program. We have a potential. We have what in the East is called Buddha nature, the potential to do something else but survival. But it oftentimes requires us to make a conscious choice and to dedicate ourselves to that choice.
Well, we do have to make a conscious choice because, you know, it's so funny you talk about that biological imperative to be the best so we can survive, so that we can procreate. And the manifestations of it, that again I see in my practice and you must see in yours, is not making sure you have enough food to reproduce, but making sure that you have the latest iPad and the latest iPhone.
That's right.
And no matter when people watch this program, I'm sure another iPhone will be coming out, so it will be topical. And I stood in line with 1 billion other people, and I knew when I got that iPhone, I would be happy. And yet I know that people, as soon as they get the iPhone, they go home, or the new gadget, and they Google what's coming up next. What's up with that?
You know, it's not the iPhone's fault. So it is tempting us to believe in that if I have this, I'll be happy. But it isn't the iPhone's fault. So it is what we do with it. If we make that our God, if that's what we believe in, we want to own, we want to possess, then we get lost in the pursuit of survival. And surviving well is not happiness.
Well, you know, I want to talk about something that you just said about how happiness becomes a conscious choice. And I'm going to really put your feet to the fire in the second segment, because I'm going to ask you very specific ways from the West and from the East about how we can use conscious choice to achieve happiness. So we're going to hold this thought for one moment, because we need to take a short break. But please stay tuned, because when we return, we're going to talk more with Dr. Andrea Polard, the author of A Unified Theory of Happiness. And we're going to learn how to make those choices to have more happiness in our lives. Stay tuned. Dr. Andrea Polard. She is a clinical psychologist, author, the founder of the Los Angeles Center for Zen Psychology. Please help me welcome my guest, Dr. Polard. Hello and welcome to Amazing Mind, the HMI Web TV talk show that introduces you to all sorts of interesting people and topics related to subconscious behavior. Polard. Now, Andrea, I'm so happy that you came to talk to us about your wonderful brand new book, certainly one of my favorites. It's called The Unified Theory of. My name is Lisa Machenberg, hypnotherapist, HMI instructor, and host. Today we have an amazing guest who's going to talk to us about happiness. Please help me welcome my guest,